What was your take on that?
Oh, my take is that anything that promotes the identity and the culture, I think that it's our responsibility as people, as indigenous descended people, to pay mind to that, pay heed to it, and to find out everything that we can. And the headdresses, the artesanía, all the art, that's a huge part of everything that we're about culturally. So, yeah, everything is great about it.
Yeah. I know we've been having this discussion for a while, but this is the first time that we got to really get into this on video. So let's relate this with the campo, because I know you talked to me a lot about that stuff, and there's like a lot of elements there that people are not really aware about, especially the people in the campos themselves. Like,
right.
Let's start with not recognizing the elements that are presented in the culture. Like, what's your take?
I'll put it like this. So clearly we're Caribbean people and we're all mixed, right? So eliminate the question of race, really, because it's there. It's just it's all mixed up. So the thing is with the culture is that when people don't recognize part of the race, that because it is a factor, then they miss out on things. In other words, my father grew up in a boyo, right? We had a rayo and the sing and you know, all the artifacts or whatever, baskets hanging off of the ceiling. Like, you would think you were in the Amazon. Right. But at the same time, you know, that's just how it's been. It's always been like that in the country.
Right.
And people still live that way.
Right.
But at the same time, you ask those people about the Indians, and you'll get the response, oh, the poor Indians, you know. Why'd the Spanish have to kill all of them? You know, you'll get that kind of a thing. You'll get that from the most Indian-looking people. That phenomenon is seen all over Latin America, not just where I'm from. You know, and I saw it all over the island, because the last time that I went south, north, and east. Before that, I went west, and it was the same deal. You know? So there's no escaping that for some people, but for most of us, that's what I think that is really important, is to raise awareness about our roots. That's really what it comes down to. So all the Indian stuff that you see in the island, people will discount it, or they'll say, oh, that's a Dominican thing. Well, yeah, maybe now, you know, but what are the roots to that? That's what I'm curious about.
Okay.
And all of that exists. All of that exists. The religiosity, work with stones and all that, you know. And you don't necessarily have to believe any of it, but just recognizing that the elements exist and that they're there, that's crucial.
Right.
Right. So that's my opinion on that.
All right. The second one, I think this is a really important one. A lack of awareness.
Right.
Like, I know, like, you know, I hear a lot that a lot of the people from the campos are afraid to say Indio. So what's your take on that?
Some of them are. Like, there is that stereotype because of the lack of understanding of history, that people have these stereotypes about Indians. One of them being that either they're dumb or, you know, they're easy to trick or they're gullible, that kind of a thing. But again, that's a lack of awareness, because these people are, when I hear that kind of a thing, it really, really bothers me, you know what I mean? Because, well, that's where I come from, and that's where they come from too. They're just not realizing it.
Right.
And that's a really sad part.
So what about interest? Like, what's it gonna take to, like, get them to recognize who they are? You know?
Well, it's just a matter of talking about it and identifying those elements and displaying that to people. And that's part of what we do on the Facebook page, actually, called Golpe de Gamao. If you want to join that and, you know, come to see things that maybe you didn't see in the past, or connect some dots that you didn't necessarily connect, maybe out of lack of interest or maybe out of lack of resources. Well, there's a resource, and you just have to have the interest.
Right.
You know? So that's in place for everybody to take advantage of, as long as you got a Facebook account, right?
Right. Yeah, and it's funny you bring up interest, because I think, you know, Golpe de Gamao, you know, it really, you know, pulls a lot of people together. And I think it's a, you know, very important tool to utilize, especially just to get the word out.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree fully.
So
That's the direction that we're heading to. Every day, more and more people. Every day, I hear Caribbean people saying "Taino this" or "Taino that," and it's not necessarily maybe that they feel that they are, but again, they're more aware. Sorry. So it's some of the work that the people here have been doing in the Taino community is coming to fruition now, and it has been for a while, and it's just speeding up. The pa'lante que vamos, and that's it.
right, Palante. So what's your take on the availability of the resources? Like as far as people being able to acquire information, that those are seeking to learn about their culture and heritage.
Well, see, the big deal really is raising awareness between everybody that's here in New York City, in New Jersey, in Connecticut, and back on the islands, on all of them, Jamaica, Haiti, Quisqueya, Cuba, Borinquen, and everywhere, where we are, right? And now some of those places are more difficult than others, but if you look at what people are doing, like George, for example, he went over to DR the other day, and he's working stuff out with them. There's Puerto Ricans that we're talking to, and we're going places with them. Kotu being one of them with his artwork and everything. And there's artesanos back home.
Right.
Because over here it's kind of easier. It's kind of easier to find people who are with this mentality, because what we're recognizing is a disconnect between our parents or grandparents or whatever who were raised over there and we're raised here.
Right.
So we miss out on stuff. But for some of us, maybe we'll go over there and we'll see something that'll spark our interest. We come back here and then we find this whole thing kind of set up. Over there, it's more rural. It's more difficult.
Right.
So with the people that we have there, they're really loud about it too. So in some places, like in the way with Leonel, for example, he's always doing something. He's always doing some kind of art where he's talking to people and spreading awareness and sparking interest and consciousness among the people. So all of that combined, I think, will eventually make it so that the resources are available both here and over there. Online is a great resource, as previously stated, just because of it's so accessible. So as long as you have an internet cafe within an hour away from it, you can get access to this stuff. And also just asking your parents, asking your grandparents and everything, because they have stories. They have a lot of stories. And the thing is that sometimes you'll ask them about things and you'll get a story, and at the moment you might not be able to understand it. Maybe how it doesn't even make sense, or maybe you learn a life lesson. I'll give you an example. My father was telling me about how when he was a boy, or his brother was a boy, he went into a field, and this field was his father's friends, right? So he figured, I could take a couple of mangoes or whatever. So he went, he knocked down a whole bunch of fruit and whatever, he took whatever he wanted. And, his pops finds out, and they talk about it, and he learns that that's stealing, right? So that kind of thing, it's set on the island, it's set within the cultural kind of confines of where Taino people were and where they are, for so long in history, that it's kind of like I could imagine that kind of a thing being something that somebody would have said 1,000 years ago or 2,000 years ago. And back in, it's that kind of primal wisdom, that I think is important.
Right.
And we kind of miss out on that when we move over here. All those things transform, and we learn the same lessons, just differently. You gotta hold on to the values.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
The honest values.
So, I see another thing, what about reliability? Do you feel like it's a challenge, as far as, getting the word out?
For the moment, yeah. Hopefully these videos actually, they do work to help alleviate that, so that we can spread this idea and this awareness farther. It's an interesting thing, when you grow up hearing all the Indians are dead, like I did, and meanwhile, a few years later, you're reading genetic studies that, it turns out at least 15% of Dominicans carry the marker,
Right.
the Indian marker.
Right.
So we have a percentage of DNA within us,
Right.
Some of us anyway.
Right.
Same thing in Cuba, and same thing in Borinquen right now, as far as I know. I don't know about any other studies in the other islands. But, in Puerto Rico, it's 60%, and that's nuts. You grow up with this false history, and that's what we're trying to turn around.
Right.
That all these things were lost, and that the race is gone, and everything. It's not necessarily true. We're a little mixed, that's all. That's all there is to it.
Yeah. At the workshop, at the headdress workshop with Cotabana, me and Louis were having a conversation about community-based gathering. So, what's your take on community growing? Like, what's your opinion on that?
Well, like I said, it's going to continue to grow, because it has been. And the ball's rolling. That's all there is to say, really. Just need a little time.
Right, I agree.
Yeah, we're going to grow.
I agree. Yeah, so let's close it out with this. So what's your take on the importance of people getting involved?
You have to get involved, right? In some way or another, even if it's just gaining knowledge or whatever. If you're not interested in, like, the feathers or whatever, whatever reason, whatever inhibition you might have, that's fine. As long as you take the time out to learn about it and everything. Only so that you're more aware. I'm talking to us Caribbean people right now. Just so that everybody's more aware. Because I think that it's useful when you're able to recognize elements within your own culture, within your own family, within your own history. And we have to remember that this is important. Why? Only because it was actually hidden from us.
Right.
And it was brainwashed right out of us, right out of our ancestors, is what I'm saying. Years and years ago. So that they couldn't even recognize what they were when they looked in the mirror.
Right.
You'd be really shocked, really, really Indian-looking people, and they have no idea when they look in the mirror. Like I said, that's all over Latin America. So we got to reverse that trend. We got to make sure that people are aware of their history. That's what it comes down to.
No, I agree.
But one last thing, because I have to make this point, is the deal with the identity, the actual identity. Because to a degree, when you're mixed, you don't really have a choice, right? You're all these things. But culturally, what do you identify more with, right? And that's a serious question. The thing is that some governments allow you to choose that, and some governments don't. In other words, here in the U.S., if you can mark down whatever you want on the census, and nobody's gonna stop you.
Right.
But in DR, where I'm from, I'm gonna tell the story. I went to go get my ID card, right? Citizen, both citizen of here and there. So I went to go get my ID card, and it was a whole process. I had to go to the junta, and I sat down in an office with a woman, and she's figuring everything out or whatever. And there's a category for skin color. It's called piel, so your skin color. And there used to be 3 categories as far as I know, which was blanco, indio, and negro. Now there's blanco, mulatto, and negro. In other words, where my mother would have been an Indian, even if it's just, to them they say that it's just a skin color. But I think that it's somewhat of an indicator of race as well. Now they eliminated indio, and there's just mulatto, where that place was. Now, clearly I got black and white race in me. So that term, maybe it makes some kind of sense. But, I am my mother's son, right? So whereas she can be Indian, I can't. And that's the position that the government is taking. So I want to denounce that. I really do. Because I feel like that's hurtful not only to the individual and how they see themselves, but also detrimental to society. Because it's just further elimination. That's all it is. They wanna silence that side of the conversation, and that's not gonna happen. Plain and simple. I don't care what government says what.
Right.
We are who we are, and we were who we were, and we'll continue to be just that. This time with awareness, and sovereignty. Hopefully, that's my take.
Definitely. And with that, until next time.
Until next time.
All right.